Hello and welcome to the Be Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast, where we are reshaping life, leadership and business from the inside out. And today I've just flown to California and now I've flown back to Australia, and here I am talking to Germaine Muller not all the way, close by in the ACT, Canberra. Welcome to the show, Germaine.
Thanks, B. How are you going?
Yeah, I'm good. I feel like I'm a real jet setter. I'm jet setting around the world through video.
Look, you made it in time for this podcast, so I'm happy.
Yeah. So nice to see you. It's been a while since we first connected, quite a few weeks ago, and we were just talking about speed, weren't we, before? Talk about everything is just it's wild. It's wild times.
It's just crazy, right? Tech is sort of just at a different level of innovation and iteration, and then you sort of get the pressure with the business to what do you do? You've got to pace it, but do you try to keep up and get burnt out, or there's just so much to it.
Yes, that's a good starting point. It's a good question, because do you try and keep up and burn out, or do you just go, you know what, I'm just going to go at my own pace and know that I'm going to get there when I get there, versus this ability or this attempt to go 100 miles an hour and, like you say, burn out?
I think the big thing is to set the pace independent of the moment. I think, take a step back, work out what you want to do, because I think there's a catch of you might try and in not keeping up, you might, procrastinate at the same time, right? So I think it's really handy to sort of take a step back, go, okay, how do I want this to pace? Because when you think about, a day feels short, but a year feels like a long time away. But a year's made up of just a bunch of days. And so you've still got to do all that along the way. And I think, you set the pace, but you also have to have a sanity check and make sure that that pacing is in line with where you want to go. Because you can't, take it easy and then be surprised that you haven't got what you wanted to get done.
Yes, so true. So true. I do think those slow and steady wins the race, as much as I have my own, battles internally at times on go faster, you're not doing enough work. And then I'm like, just calm it down. So yeah, anyway. Well, let's get into it, because you have quite the story. You've been an entrepreneur since you were 13 years of age. Wow, is all I can say. So you founded your company Futuretheory, and interestingly that it's called Futuretheory. I'm going to ask you how you came up with Futuretheory at the age of 13, because Futuretheory feels so relevant now. and here you are creating it when you're 13. We'll come back to that. So so founded Futuretheory at 13 years of age, growing what began as a school side hustle into one of Canberra's leading full-service digital agencies. And along the way, you've partnered with nearly 200 organisations, helping these businesses navigate growth through strategy, tech and digital innovation. However, there was an important inflection point that emerged as Futuretheory evolved from a passion project into a thriving business. And Germaine, you realised that this sustainable success isn't built on saying yes to everything. It's built on creating clear boundaries, protecting what matters, and building systems that allow both people and businesses to grow. Today, you're leading the next chapter of Futuretheory, which is embracing on-premise AI and emerging technologies to create smarter, more efficient ways of working, whilst remaining grounded in genuine client relationships. I love that, genuine client relationships. They just mean so much, don't they? And at the heart and soul of your work is a belief that lasting businesses aren't built by working harder. They're built by growing with intention, staying true to your values, and having the courage to evolve as you do. Tell us a bit about your story, because 13, you hear these stories, and it's like, how did you decide at 13 years of age that you wanted to start your own little side hustle of a business?
Look, I think if you spoke to my parents, they'd say that I had an element of sort of just, I remember overhearing them saying to, friends like, oh, Germaine wanted this. So he just got up, worked out the 3 buses that he's got to catch. He'd saved up the money. He went there when the store opened, got it, and was home by, 9:30. So there's that element of my parents sort of spotting that. And then they didn't overtly encourage and push it, but they didn't discourage it as well. And they did what they could to I think they were very good at sort of managing it, right? So they didn't sort of try and push all this stuff on me and my siblings, but they also were there, like not as overt cheerleaders, but they were there to support, and you always knew they were there. And so what that led me to do was sort of at a young age realize, okay, I could work part-time, that's awesome, but I'd go to school, get home, and I have all these hours before I go to bed that I've got to do something with. And early on, like I knew I was into sort of visual art and drawing and things like that, but it was very obvious that that graphic design and the sort of digital art was going to be the thing. And I was playing around with Photoshop and playing around with video editing, and it just very quickly became obvious that there was a need for this. And of course, at the time, like I was charging next to nothing. I was 13, right? I made a mistake of even in my invoices having my TFN, which is the tax file number in Australia. And I remember like the second invoice I sent out, someone responded back saying, "Hey mate, do not put your like this can be used to, really stuff you up with the ATO because people could use their TFN, screw you over financially." I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there was this need, and all I was trying to do was make sure that this need was met, and I was delivering what clients wanted. And the more you do that, the more business you get, the more work you get, and then the business sort of continues to grow.
Wow. So 13. So you finish school, you go right through school, you've got this little side hustle on the go, and you don't actually get into it full time until you're 25. How?
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, you go.
No, 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 you go.
Well, yeah, like, look, I went through school. I am still not convinced that well, business isn't easy, right? And I'm still not convinced that business is the easy way to do things or the surefire way to do things. I would argue it's the opposite. And so I resisted that urge to go full time for, well, 12 years, right? Came out of uni. I remember at uni, um, even talking to my tutors and sort of like realizing that they a lot of them were not just tutoring, but they were working for agencies, doing graphic design, web design, all of that. But I very quickly realized that everything was sort of capped and limited, and I didn't want that for myself. And so that's why I thought, you know what, let's just like I remember talking to my partner at the time, who's now my wife, and she was like, because I had a full-time gig and it was good, it was great actually. I was doing probably better than a majority of people my age. But she was like, there's just something. It's clear that like your side hustle means more to you than your like full-time job, even though it was the same industry. It was very similar, if not identical work. So it wasn't clearly the work, it was more the parameters around it. Um, and I just thought, what do I have to lose? Like I'm 25. Like honestly, especially nowadays, I think you could reinvent yourself at whatever age
Yeah,
and still kill it. Like
totally.
just absolutely do well. So um I just took the leap.
Good on you. Good on you. We started the conversation about boundaries. And here you are, you're studying, you've got a side hustle. How have you, like, you've obviously worked on boundaries from the outset. Like, what do boundaries mean to you? And, now that you're like thriving in your business, you've had it for 18 years. I'm sure there's been the highs, the lows, and all the in betweens. There's probably you've had moments where you're like, I cannot take on any more work, or like there's just like you've had the meltdowns or whatever. I'm assuming this. Yeah, I know you should never assume. Tell us a little bit about, yeah, when you've had moments of not setting enough boundaries, or potentially have you ever set too many boundaries and then kind of like locked yourself into like so much rigidity as such? Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So initially, the first until I was probably 18, I was not great at boundary setting within the business. And that's what taught me the importance of boundary setting, right? So I'd get up for uni, or actually, even at school, I'd go to school, get home, do some work, send off some assets at like 11 p.m., do a bit more work, go to bed, and then like I remember the first few times where clients had my mobile number and they would call me at like 6 a.m. Because they've gotten up for their day and they're just checking in on stuff. And I very quickly realized like that wasn't going to work, right? Because I'd be up till 2 a.m., hope to get up at 7, but the 6 o'clock wake up was just not part of the plan. It was sort of just, I needed sleep. I knew that I needed
Yeah.
sleep, but and so it just became very obvious very quickly that I had to set boundaries at least around communication. Generally, even at that time, I'd started to set boundaries around how much I worked just so that I had other things in my life that I would do and other things that I'd find interesting and, um, allow me those opportunities sort of to take a break. And so like now, I think there's maybe two clients out of a couple of hundred that has my mobile number, and even that's sort of historical. Like, you know, I first worked with them about 8 years ago, 10 years ago, so they have my mobile number from that time. But very quickly, even while I was at uni, what I did was just got a virtual landline number, redirected that to my mobile, and that alone just allowed me to cut off
Yeah.
this connection because. I mean, nowadays, like you feel like there's all these messaging apps. There's
I
email,
know.
there's video calls.
It's impossible to keep up, isn't it? Like, someone was messaging me overnight, and I saw it this morning. I turn my phone like I switch it off to sleep mode overnight purposely, because otherwise you're just checking your phone all night or checking it at random times of the day, middle of the night, for example. And I think that it was a real insight for me because this person was like, "Hey, I haven't seen anything. Have you like done what you were doing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I did it yesterday at like lunchtime." And it's because I think like like our brains are so like all over the shop at the moment in terms of just this. It's just not keeping up, right? And so yeah, it's
Well,
fascinating.
it's fed by social, like this sort of idea that you've got to always have stimulation, always have stuff going on. I think then leads to the opposite as well of like, hold on, I spoke to B, but B hasn't gotten back to me. Has she done the work? Has she not? Like, I'm just like sort of frantic all the time. And like even like I wear a smartwatch, as do a lot of people, right? And one of the things I've done recently is actually disabled the notifications, like the vibrations on the smartwatch, because even that just makes you like, it just takes you out of the moment, just makes you very, very momentarily task switch and sort of go, or at least sort of go, hold on, my phone vibrated or my watch vibrated. What was that about? Should I look? And because I caught myself a few weeks ago, actually, no, a few months ago, where I just like sneak a glance when I'm in a meeting or something, and the client would say, "Oh, sorry, am I holding you up?" Not sort of aggressively. They were just checking because they thought we'd overrun our time or whatever, and it just makes you go, hold on, maybe these modes of communication should be that, like, it's a mode of communication. It's not a mode of like always being online, always being active. That's not what that's about. Um, and setting up this expectation, like a couple years ago, I remember getting a call from a client. Well, a missed call at like 7 p.m. to the work phone. Like, and now we have like, proper landlines and voicemails and all that. And they were like, "Oh, I just thought you'd be like available." Genuinely, they said 24/7. I said, we're not, right? Like, and they have sort of a work anytime from home, like
Yeah.
anywhere sort of policy. And they just expected that that's what we had too, and it's a bit, it's sort of, obviously that's a bit of a ridiculous example, but
Well,
it just
everything's
gets
up for grabs. I think
pushed.
everything's up for grabs at the moment because everything is so on. The fact that
Exactly.
we're talking about a landline, it's kind of a little bit like, what? You've got a landline? Like you're
Yeah.
going like almost analog in terms of I can't even imagine picking up a landline now.
I
Interesting
mean,
though.
they're cordless phones, but yeah, we've got two like physical phones in the office, and um, it works on a virtual system, like it's internet connected, but it's intentionally like you have to hand the phone to someone to take the call or pass it on to someone, um, because it lets you set physical boundaries in a way that you can't
Oh, I love
if
it.
you enable that on a mobile phone, right? Like what do you do? Like if you call me at 10, like do you tell the app to not ring? Like it's a bit crazy. Um and it puts people off, but like because they just go, "Oh, like what if I need to contact you?" It's like you can email. Like we know the rely like and the truth of the matter is we basically never, like I would say, I don't know, once in the last 5 years we've had an instance where it was an actual emergency. Um, and there's that other side of boundary setting as well. Like often we joke that everything's really, really important to
Urgent.
everyone. Yep, it's urgent until you put like okay, we're gonna have to charge you extra for that, or it's like any sort of friction because that then makes them reassess and go,
Mhm.
oh, actually, it's not that important.
Yeah.
Well, uh, 5 minutes ago, it was very extremely
Yeah,
important. It
no,
was important enough that you were
it's
trying to,
because
you
do you
know,
know what? Do you know why, Jermaine? Because it's what they want to get it off. Like everyone wants to get off their plate, so it's urgent, urgent, urgent. You need to do it. Like I know I can get like that at times. Tell us a little bit about genuine client relationships because y- you just mentioned then about the phone thing and it's put a few people off. Like, what constitutes a genuine client relationship? You've been doing this for 18 years. I mean, I've got my point of view. I'd love yours. Like, what do you think constitutes that? And do you think we're seeing less genuine client relationships given the state of the world we're in right now? Or do you think we're seeing an increase in genuine relationships? There's probably two questions. Yeah, there's two questions
interesting. Yeah, I
there.
think, COVID obviously caused the up, like moving to video calling, like just at a different level of take up. But to me, like genuine relationships like to me at a fundamental level about connecting. Like every time we get a new lead, I reach out to them and I say we can hop on a video call, we can hop on a phone call, or we can meet in person, right? And the truth is only about 20-30% of our clients are in Canberra, and so it makes it difficult. But even then, like I make an effort to go to Sydney and meet with clients who are in Sydney. I make an effort to go to Melbourne and like I try. Even tried, last year when I was in London to try and line up a meeting with a client over there. Because the genuine, like, this is the thing I care about: meeting people, getting to know them, understanding. Like, obviously, it's a lot easier or a lot more obvious as to their motivations and their passion when they're the founder of the business or the CEO. But I enjoy doing that with people who are working within a business just as much because you talk to a marketing manager or a membership manager and you sort of understand like they love this. I
Mm,
was talking to a client a couple of days ago and she said this is her gonna be her job till she dies, and I was like, that is awesome. Because again, I feel like we live in a world a little bit where you just jump to the next highest paying opportunity, or you're sort of, that's what they say, right? You jump from, like, you job hop
yeah,
because what's important is just getting paid as much as you can, and you sort of take a step back and go, actually, driving 30 minutes to meet with someone, there's no real ROI in that. Like, it's 30 minutes each way wasted unless you value the actual connection, shaking hands, looking them eye to eye. Like, I I often would go, drive an hour there and back to meet for 30 minutes with someone
yeah,
because I value that. And it's funny because we work in it, like, a lot of what we do is digital. Like, basically everything that we do is digital, non-tactile, but I still value that physical connection, um, just way, way more than I
yeah. I
think
agree. I
we
agree, and I
do
feel
right
like
now.
it's an experience too, right? It's that connection, and I feel like we're going to see more of it. I feel like we're getting back to basics a bit because there is like your brain sizzles. Like I had a migraine last week, and I was like, oh gosh, I feel like I'm back in COVID days because I'd been on screens for so long, and it was just like, and you just have to completely switch off. What do you see as the biggest challenges for you? Like 18 years in business. we're in this really interesting. Your business is called Future Theory. You've had like an evolution. It's this I think you said continuous evolving. Like, what is it like? What are you seeing as like the biggest as a founder? Someone like, are you feeling like you're constantly having to reinvent the company and yourself? Like, what is it that? Mm,
We've probably 8 years ago, we defined our ICP, ideal client profile, and we've sort of stayed true to that as far as like that is very, very true. It's true now as it was 8 years ago. But at the same time, what is changing is sort of how we talk to them and how we service them. Obviously, AI is a big thing. Like I'm like adamant that every single role within our business can gain like 30% efficiency by using AI as part of sort of the stack and part of the approach, but not as the um, end product
mm,
deliverance. Like we're working with a client at the moment, for example, who took the opposite. They felt like AI was the answer to everything. So their website stock photos are replaced with AI imagery. The text is condensed with AI, and ultimately, that's not the answer. Because
right.
the big thing with AI is that it's really good at doing what it's been trained to do and taught to do, and that fundamentally means that it can only do things that have like it can only recreate it can take something that exists and make a new version of it. But if you're in business, I think you have to innovate. I think you have to think differently. Doesn't mean you have to do everything differently just for the sake of doing it, but it also has to be sort of tempered by the fact that if you're employing AI, that is just a tool along the way. In the same way that you wouldn't, open up any other software and then just let it do
I
what
know.
it thinks it should
Oh,
do.
interesting. Yeah, it's so interesting because the conversations have shifted so much on the pod since like even like a few months ago, where it's like like the agents are right, like they're making everything so much more efficient and all incredible, and there's this ethical piece that's coming through right now. This ethical and this like, hang on a second, like what can it do for me versus what can't it do for me, and like it's almost like the human intelligence is almost we handed all our power over to AI, the artificial intelligence, and then all of a sudden it's like a lot of leaders, a lot of business founders, etc., including myself, are going, "Hang on, I never handed everything over, by the way, because it just goes against who I am." I'm just looking at everything now, going, like, it's almost like I'm playing a bit of a waiting game before I just really put it all together, because I'm just like, what is actually right for me? What's true for me? What do I need? I don't want, it writing all my content. Yes, it can help me collaborate, actually tell the stories authentically and in a way that are coming from me versus quietly, and what stayed with me, and all these common phrases that are coming out. I'm like, oh my goodness, we all sound the same. This is
hmm
dementing. Who are we? What are we?
Like a new rule that I created for myself internally when I'm thinking about clients, um, again, was instigated by an AI conversation with a different client, with another client. And what I've decided is if you don't know how to do it, you shouldn't ask AI to do it,
No.
because you actually don't have the skills to know. It's like the Dunning-Kruger effect. You know little, but you somehow, because AI did it, you think that it is correct, or
And
it suddenly gives you this skill that you didn't have. What you've got to remember is that works at a surface level, right? Like if you like just the other day I put up a LinkedIn post about these ChatGPT flyers that are doing the rounds. Funny enough, our head of marketing and myself, we had like a similar prompt to create a flyer just for demonstrative purposes. And I was using my personal Gmail account on my computer, and she was using her separate account on her computer, and it actually spat out the same thing, um, more or less. Like weirdly similar. Like, it's on my LinkedIn. It wasn't even intentional. She sent it to me and I was like, oh, that's very interesting. Here's mine. And even the image was the same. The layout was very similar. And all that's to say is that as a designer, like as someone with design experience, I can look at that and say, it isn't great. They all look the same, right?
No.
But for the average person, if you're like, in this instance, we used a landscaping business as an example. You don't have the skills to know whether it's good or bad. And it's okay. I'm not saying don't use it, don't do it, but just be aware that what you think is amazing because you don't know enough to know better doesn't mean it's actually amazing.
Yeah.
And I think like the other like and two big risks for businesses as well is that even the AI companies themselves say that output is not predictable and is not consistent. So the same tool can come up with a different answer when you ask them the same
I know,
question.
I know. It's really, I
How
mean,
does that work for business?
I know.
Like,
I play Claude and chat off each other, and it's fascinating because and I'll throw sometimes in what Claude said, and I'll throw it into chat, and chat goes, "This is incredible," or chat will say like, and I'm just like, everyone talks about Claude being the best, and they're kind of competing against one another. If you ask me, there's flaws in Claude, there's flaws in Open AI. Like it comes back.
so like
Mm,
we play 6 months ago now, I actually set up a local computer just dedicated to AI because a big thing for me is privacy. Like you talked about, giving away all sorts of stuff, but like I think the biggest thing you're giving away at the moment is your own data. And people don't realize that like when you send something to a large language model, it goes to the cloud, through the computers owned by these companies. It gets processed, it gets fed into as training data and then spat out. So a big thing that we did um, is we've set up rules around use of AI, how we can use AI. Like for coding, for example, like our developers can use AI because all that's doing is just speeding up what they would have typed out themselves anyway. And that's a very different thing, right? There's no privacy implications unless we're doing something truly unique for the first time.
mm,
But by setting up a local AI computer, like the interesting thing is you're talking about Claude, you're talking about ChatGPT, and they have pretty good large language models. But then there's like Quen and
yeah,
DeepSeek and all these other models that, like the big shift for us has been running local, but running an agent with different profiles, with different personalities, with different instruction sets and hyper customizing it for specific roles so
yeah,
that you don't get a generalist, but you get a specific, like
yeah. That's great.
my little agent has like, we have a 3D printing business and it knows our pricing schedule. So I can just, instead of going on the Excel spreadsheet to put up a quote, I can just say 3 hours of this material with,
Yeah.
tell me how much it costs, right? And that tool is really, really good at everything to do with the 3D printing business because I've treated it as a, staff member who
Yeah,
works for that
totally. So it's
business.
got its own little like Mac Mini or whatever, like its own little it's its own little computer. Like I mean, it's really interesting, isn't it? Jermaine, I've got a couple of final questions for you, please. I want to talk about values because just quickly, because like just listening to you talking about AI, like do you think that, and I guess the team is very different now. Like it's a team of agents, it's a team of humans. And you mentioned like having the courage. Well, I said that having the courage to evolve as you do. Values feel like for me right now, there's a bit of a tension point in terms of it can't just be values for humans. It's like, what are the values that are for both the humans and the agents from a hybrid perspective? Are you looking at values that way? Are you evolving your values to ensure that the agents like put those values into action when they're doing their work for you as well?
Very much so. Like you've got to like in the real world, if you have team members, they work within parameters, right? Like whether even if they work from home or whatever else, like they'd have a device that they have to use or they have to go here to check their emails. And I think it's very important that you set the same rules for your AI tools so that you know the parameters within which they're operating. Like we had a client who requested, hey, can our AI tool access our server. I was like, it can, but instead of taking the approach of let's just let it do whatever it wants to, you tell me what you want it to do and we'll let it do those things, right? So that we are not just opening up a world where our values are just whatever it feels like, whenever it feels like, because it decided so from based on large language modeling, and it becomes okay, like ultimately we have to know like as a business you know how things are done, let alone how
Yeah,
someone would
totally.
behave. So why are we not applying the same rules and the
Agree.
same parameters to AI or anything else really, right? Like how many businesses would have expectations around how their subcontractors operate
Yeah,
and
totally.
what their values are. Like, why are we acting like, this thing is just the most right thing in the world and can do no
I
wrong when
know. Yeah.
you have a business? It should work within your rules, because otherwise, if it can do the same thing for anyone else, what do you have left? You've got no
Right.
differentiation.
Totally. Oh, it's such a good point. It's such a good point. I had a question for you and I've just lost it. No, I hear it's come back to me. 18 years in business. Do you ever get bored? Do you ever go, gosh, I need to be doing something else? Like you've talked about, you've got a 3D printing business. Like what has kept you staying in the same business for all these years? Because it's an incredible stint.
This is going to sound like a classic like canned response, but honestly for me it's seeing the impact that we make and like getting that feedback back from clients, getting, you know, opening up analytics tools and looking through like honestly genuinely I can say that's the biggie for me. Like it helps that I do think every person is here to like do the best that they can and then leave the world hopefully a little bit better. Again, sounds canned, but I genuinely do
I
think that.
agree.
And so I think about, okay, what can I do? How can I help? And um, obviously, like one of the big things that I'm doing now, though, is also really tempering everything I do with the understanding that it also has to make sense commercially, because, there are families who rely on the businesses. There's like on us, like it's not just something you take lightly. And where in the past I would have gone like, let's do it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Just being a bit more intentional on that front. But I think that's just me maturing as an
Yeah,
individual,
totally.
as much as a business owner.
Yeah. I love it. Have you got any final advice? Any words of wisdoms? Yeah, actually, have you got like what would you give? What would you say to your 13-year-old self again if you were thinking about starting a side hustle at 13 years of age?
I would say that process is everything. Processes are everything. Write those down, note those down,
Very
and
true.
then iterate on those, because like I think about it all the time. We're now like the business is at a stage where I've recognized we have to have these processes in place to take the next step, because it shouldn't just be in Germaine's head and the other team members' heads. So I would say just operationalize, and then that'll just set you up for the future. And that's like the big sort of decider of how good the next stages are going to be.
Yeah, incredible. Germaine, thank you so much. How do we find out more about you? How do we find out more about Future Theory?
Yeah, if you go to futuretheory.co, the words future and theory are spelt how they sound. That's our website, and if you just Google Germaine Muller, you'll find my LinkedIn, you'll find my personal website. So, yeah, would love to chat, would love to connect with anyone who's got any questions, and if I can help with anything at all.
Amazing. Thank you, Germaine. Wow, what a story. Incredible. Wishing you the best day. It's Thursday here, so enjoy your day and keep those boundaries, keep the boundaries going. Is all I'm supposed to say.
Thanks,
I think
B.
I
Thank you
need
very
my second
much.
coffee for the morning. Have a great day, Germaine. Thank you so much.
You too. Thanks, B.
Thanks.